today, my dear boy.
All right, yeah. Don't say anything now. We're live. Be careful what you say about anybody. Okay, no, just kidding. All right, guys, welcome. Mindfulness class, whatever we want to call it now, right? And we'll give it a minute. Get my notes.
It does.
Oh, and it's yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's like, oh man, yeah. It's so hard to sit like this. Lotus. This is not even. What's lotus? Can you do lotus?
Not really. I can't get my foot
my
up all the way, but
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Wow.
Good for, wow. Oh, wow.
I still can't get it up all the way. But something like this. This is half lotus. I like to stick with half.
I'm sorry, what is your name?
Angela.
Because I work out with you on Saturdays a lot of times.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
I
at
haven't
8
been to
o'clock.
Saturday for a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. I'm Chris.
Most efficient usually.
Chris, how you been? I feel like I haven't seen you in a while, but I guess you were in Jamaica and then
Yeah, no, I've been doing good.
and then
yeah.
you're back. Yeah, you've been back for a while.
Yeah, I've been back and enjoying that 8 a.m. class. and
Yeah.
I came last Wednesday night, there was only 3 of us in class, it was great.
Wednesday night, 6 p.m.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. That is nice. It's like this part of it is you want a lot of people, so there's lots of energy, and then part of it you don't want a lot of people, so you can, you know what I mean? It's kind of like nice to just have your own space and.
Well, like I said, usually I go to the longevity in the morning, and I looked at what it was. I never look ahead of time, so I just rolled over, and I thought, but you know what? I love the 6 o'clock class, and I ended up going to it. So I'm not beating myself up about missing class in the morning, because now I found a class at 6 that I really enjoy.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
Definitely. Yep. Well, guys, mindfulness class. I think we're maybe 15 or 16 in. It's pretty good. You know, who knows, right? And hope you guys are having a good week. It's Monday. We haven't even started the week, right? Sometimes you wake up on the wrong foot and have that weird week, or you're just kind of off, or you're just kind of talking like being off, or sometimes you're like, oh, this is great, you know, like this is the best week ever, you know, and so it's just how it goes. And that kind of is about what we're going to talk about tonight, is back a little bit more on the garden. This teaching is from Jack Kornfield, so if you ever want to look in, he's got that book, The Ecstasy, After the Ecstasy, the Laundry, so, and he, more than that too, but and he's got a good podcast, so I took a lot of this from him. So well, let's begin, and let's do our kind of 10 breath meditation, where we kind of count, breathe in, count 1, breathe out, count 1, and we'll go to 10 on that. So take your time, good little posture. Now that we have our little stools behind us, and while you're doing this, guys, obviously be here now is the focus. And I also want you to sense what is true in your heart and what isn't, and just let that go. So sensing what's true. meditating to Metallica. It's good to have some humor with it too. I just noticed that and I was like, I forgot to
start
change
smiling,
it.
like right little
Yeah.
touch. I'm like, wait a second.
What did he just say? Yeah. It's good. Hey, we got to do it right. We got to practice it everywhere. Metallica in the background. It's sometimes that 10 breath thing is hard to do, and sometimes it's not. One of the benefits of meditation is just creating more focus. So, you know, if you get to 5 and you get distracted, that's okay. You got to 5. That's awesome. Sometimes I don't even count. I'm like, was that 7? Yeah, that's cool. You know, like 8, 9, 10. So tonight, guys, mindfulness meditation, a deeper listening, looking into our hearts and minds. That's really what it is. It's just looking into your heart and mind. You know, it's nothing more than, you know, there's no crazy style or breaths that we hear, 10 breath thing or anything. It's just a deeper listening, not with your ears necessarily, but like your soul's ears. Practicing, that's what it is. It's practicing, just like we practice our fitness. We get better as we practice, right? But if we take a 5-month vacation off, we come back, it's a little harder, you know? You had something, you gained it, whatever you gained, you still retain some of it, but it is something that we do need to keep up with, you know? It doesn't have to be this mindless or this really hard job, like you have to always do it, but it's just something to notice. Because what we're doing is we're gardening our heart. Anytime that we practice it or even think about it, or even think that we didn't do it, like, oh dang, I wasn't mindful that time. That's another time of where you gardened your heart. And that's what tonight's about, is kind of the gardening. Such a good analogy, and it's been around for forever. A lot of teachers in this mindfulness world use the gardening as a metaphor, and the seeds and the watering. So we'll use that tonight again. There was a Zen master, Suzuki Roshi, who was quoted saying, "You are perfect just as you are, and there is still room for improvement." You know, I thought that's great paradox there. You know, because you know we can't. It's not black and white. You know, if I'm perfect, there's nothing to do. If there's so much work to do, I'm not perfect. You know, the deep mystery of mindfulness is kind of in the middle of the two paths. You know, and we just won't know everything. We just won't. That's just the way it is. But to really understand, you are perfect just as you are, and there's still room for improvement. And you think about like the news, and the paradox with the news, and like how much fear and a lot of crazy things happen in the world now. I mean, especially, you know, but what we don't see is the millions of things that are of loving kindness that happen, and it's just not newsworthy, you know. But that happens all the time too. So we can't forget that, even though we're surrounded by this craziness, we got to remember too. That's not necessarily reality. That's the tube's reality. And I think about like people that work at the hospital, or like, you know, just places that are hard to work at, where there's lots of like, you know, people are unhappy, like the ER. I mean, you know, I'm like, or police force, cops, right? I'm like, man, the lens that covers your eyes when you're just around it, and we're so lucky here. Everybody's happy, they leave happy, and you know, even that's a lens. You have to remember, hey, this isn't, you know. So, you know, we got to remember that sometimes what we're thinking may not be real. We may just be caught in the web. And mindfulness brings us back, our heart, listening to our heart. But the idea of you are perfect as you are, and there's still room for improvement, is understanding to cherish ourselves. So we have to really love ourselves, and that's really hard for a lot of people, myself included, while still leaving room for greater possibilities. And maybe that's not so hard. Maybe you're always working. You're like, I got to do more. I'm not enough. And not one is better than the other. You have to love yourself, and you have to still leave some room, and be okay with a lot of things. There's this idea of this smaller self, which is like the body of fear or the ego, or the separateness, you know, and it's kind of like the human element of who we are. You know, we have all these like, you know, we have all these tics, we have all these things that, you know, and then there's the larger self, which is something greater, and is like the big deep mystery, right? It is it's the spiritual side, it's the religion, it's the Jesus, it's the Buddha, it's the whatever it is for you, it's the consciousness. So that's the larger self, like the big S, and the little s is, you know, the traffic, you know, all that little stuff. So there's the elements of those two, and that's the paradox too. There's just going to be that, right? There's going to be like, so Ram Dass is quoted in saying, you have to remember your Buddha nature. Now he's Buddhist, obviously, but you have to remember your Buddha nature, and you have to remember your Social Security number. So that you know what I mean. So there's like, oh, it's like, oh, that's good. Yeah, I like that. I gotta make sure these guys hear that. So there's that paradox of not losing yourself in the clouds, and at the same time not always just being grounded. We really have to, and so that's why we are perfect, but we still have room for improvement. The more we get to know, the less we know, huh? So tonight there's Jack Kornfield, where a lot of this teaching comes from. He's a Western Buddhist, a Buddhist teacher. So, but that certainly doesn't mean that this is about Buddhism. Mindfulness comes from that concept, but Jesus was mindful. Gandhi was mindful. You know, there's all these Mother Teresa, Catholic mystics, and there are all these people that are mindful. So it's not like a religion thing here, but most of this teaching will come from Buddhist monks or somebody that quoted it. So don't think that I'm pushing that. So in the Buddhist teaching, there's something like a sudden awakening, and there's also a gradual awakening that they talk about. And we've all experienced both of these. So a sudden awakening is like, I talked about last week about the death of my brother. That was for me. Maybe you've been around like the birth of a child, or experienced that in the presence of an infant. Moments in nature, or just true love, you know. Jack Kornfield in his speech even talks about making love, you know, just that ecstasy. Nothing R-rated about it, but there's just something, you know, beautiful, and we get that sudden, like, you know, and then we come back to the ground again, you know, and that's the gradual awakening as well as the human element, right? It's like okay, how do we respond to all this human stuff? Like it's you know, after the ecstasy, the laundry. There's always laundry. Okay, so. An old story here is about the gardening, and it's like this: the gardening of the heart of the mind. The trust and the faith is the seed. The trust and the faith is the seed. The compassion is the rain. The wakefulness is the plow. The consciousness is the guide. The mind is the harness. The clarity is the plow blade. Our truth is our weeding, and our wise effort is the ox that pulls the plow. We're trying to cultivate a beautiful fruit, and it's the fruit of freedom, of our heart and our well-being. We tend to our garden, our seeds, through our compassion, through our clarity, through our truth. Thich Nhat Hanh is a Vietnamese Buddhist monk, and he says it even better, I think. It's really kind of hits it. Our minds are like a piece of earth with many seeds. Seeds of joy, peace, mindfulness, love, anger, craving, fear, hate. All these are seeds in us, right? It's our human nature to have all these seeds. There's healthy and unhealthy seeds with us all the time, right? Just, you know. The quality of life depends on the seeds of life that we nurture. Our quality of life depends on the seeds of the life that we nurture. So if we nurture peace, we cultivate peace. Compassion, anger, we cultivate anger. It's just how it is. The seeds that are watered frequently will grow strong. That's a great way of thinking of it. You know, within yourself, if you have all these little seeds of like, who are you? And you know what you got. You know what you got to work on and things like that. And everybody does. And but what are you watering? What are you planting daily? It's the habits. It's the routines. It's the thought patterns. It's the first time you squatted, you planted the seed, and then you kept squatting, which was watering. You kept showing up. You kept watering it. Kept watering it. And you learned about the nutrition, and that was like a compost. It like totally made it healthier now. It's like you're just adding components to the practice of watering the seed. So let's do. This is for you guys. So this is a meditation on what you are watering and what you are planting. And what we're trying to do here is bring more presence around this. And the more we bring the awareness around what we're doing, we're going to get some incredible things happening in our lives. So let's take a minute or two and just contemplate what you're watering in your life. The good, bad, the ugly, doesn't matter. And witness it. Okay? Don't just think about what you need to work on. Also give yourself credit for what you have tended to. It's very easy to find the things that we are neglecting. Sometimes we don't always give ourselves credit to the. Take another minute. So you are perfect the way you are. Again, there is still room for improvement. So more presence around this connection of the seeds that we're planting in our lives. And we know, did you guys instantly like have it, like I had an image in my head of like, oh, I need to really work on that. There's a lot of weeds growing up. And maybe I haven't looked at that seed. It's way in the corner and I just don't want to, but it's right there. And then I had a hard time thinking of what I was going, what about the good stuff too, right? So we got to remember to give we are perfect as we are. We got to remember that first line. And then, okay, there's room to grow.
I had an experience Saturday. I'm trying to go to St. Martin de Porres on Saturdays after my 8 o'clock class. And
Is that right off of South Grand? Or where is it?
yeah, it's across from St. Patrick's
Yeah,
School.
yeah.
Like, and you take life for granted. There may be someday you're not gonna have those things in life for whatever reason. And to go and people that are less fortunate and make them feel good about themselves, and my job is usually to pass out the food. I collect the tickets and like Happy Easter, and they're just like, oh, thank you, and just giving them the food and just seeing them light up was very rewarding. I came out of there And I felt like I really did something good for over 200 people that came through.
Right.
You know, they were in the rain, they were in the cold, and, you know, I think we just concentrate so much on ourselves that we need to look around at some of the people that are less fortunate
Yeah,
than us
right,
and
right.
make them feel good about themselves.
Yeah, right,
So,
yeah,
you know, or just when I bring clothes there, dropping off clothes for these
Right.
people, and it's just such a good feeling.
Yeah.
And my kids all used to volunteer there, so I was really excited to call them and say, "Hey, guess what I did?"
yeah.
I said it was so rewarding to go there, and
Yeah.
now I know why you guys used to go there.
Yeah, what is that reward? Like that feeling, like they talk about giving is receiving. Like,
Well, like I planted the seed in my kids, like
Yeah,
teaching them
yeah,
how to give
yeah.
to others,
right,
and
right.
and like, okay, well, then I need to be doing it myself too,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
And
then
they
it
planted
was.
it right back in you. You know, it was
Exactly.
kind of a family
And
garden.
it was just, it's a great
Yeah.
feeling to go over there.
And there's so many opportunities to do that, like
Oh,
to,
yeah.
to realize how grateful and just see what, you know, that's mindfulness is,
Yeah.
is not only sitting here, but going out and doing things. And, you know, that's all we can do.
Mhm.
That's all we can do. We do one thing at a time. So like science, neuroscience, all this stuff is proven now that meditation, 6 to 8 weeks of meditation alters the brain. Something about caps of the ends of your chromosomes begin to change. Don't ask me, okay? But basically, we become more present to our experience, perceiving it in a different way. You don't just get lost in anger anymore. Instead, we grow a capacity and a spaciousness to observe through the practice, right? So it's not only in this metaphysical world, but also in the very science-based world as well. It's starting to prove what the yogis have known for, and the Christians and the Catholics and the Buddhists have known for all these years. It's now we're starting to prove it in a sense. So basically, we're becoming more present as we do this. Each time we do it, we're watering the seed a little bit more.
I'm able to catch myself a lot now if I instead of like letting anger take over me and thinking I'm angry, it's like, okay, no, I'm a person and I'm experiencing this motion of anger, and it just like lets me put some distance between me and that emotion, and then kind of get to, well, what could be causing this anger, you know, kind of walk
Yeah.
myself through it so I can just process it, release it, and, you know, get back to my core
Yeah.
being.
That's like the bigger self analyzing the little self and being like watching it. And like that's huge. You know? It's like, oh, why am I buzzing around and doing all those things? Yeah.
Well, that happened to me today. My last patient, I was so upset because, to make a long story short, this young kid, his father was seeing one of the doctors. And I said, well, so long as you're seeing, you know, your dad's seeing the doctor, why don't we have the doctor go over his results? So I went to the nurse and asked her, and she said, no, they have to make another appointment. I'm like, but the parents both took off of work. This is their child that they care about. No, they gotta make another appointment. I was so upset. It's like, where's the compassion?
Yeah.
We're
Especially with
forgetting
the
about taking care of people. This is
course.
why we're in the health field. You take care of other people. And then I'm sitting there arguing, you know, with one of my colleagues, and I'm like, I just kind of backed off, and luckily it was my last patient. I was out the door because I think I would have blown my smoke. But it was like, people, I get upset because the compassion's gone, you know, and. like,
Yeah. No, man, that's totally relatable.
Yeah.
So we begin to water the seeds. we,
I got some angry
we have those too, right?
I'll do the right thing.
Oh,
The game is gardening and planting the seeds. That's the game. That's the game. And just like planting a garden, there's obstacles. Insects, droughts, right? Weeds trying to grow up all the time, right? It's just how it is. It's the paradox of the everything that we see. There's not going to be a day of nothing until there is nothing. You know, there's always something, and change is always happening. There's never a constant thing. It's always going to be something, and we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know. We just don't know, like in an hour from now, what's going to happen.
Oh, yeah, changes minute by minute, yeah.
Minute by
Just
minute, right.
How your day's gonna go.
So this is true with anything, relationships even too. If we think about that, talking about relationships, but like right away I thought of myself, like with Molly when we moved in together. Like she probably thought I was pretty cool until we moved in together, right? And I'm dirty and I'm stinky and I don't do the dishes and I leave my clothes out, and the image that she had 7-8 years ago of me, how that's changed to now, and that's just those are the obstacles,
Yeah, married you anyway.
And she married me anyway. Can you believe that? Thanks, Molly. Spiritual practice, mindfulness practice is the garden, tending to it. What seeds do we want to plant? Kindness, peacefulness, compassion for ourselves and others in the world. What will you devote yourself to? Let's take another minute, just sit with it. Let's think about your posture a little bit, because what's in is out. What we're thinking of inside comes out, projects outward. So sitting with dignity, 1 minute. What will you devote yourself to? Take a breath and come back. No matter what arises, can you meet it with compassion? No matter what comes up, can you meet it with compassion? Doesn't mean you let somebody stand on your foot or your hand, right? It's not like that, but can you have the space, like you were talking about, to get around that energy, to not let that stream take you, but can you witness it first? And maybe it takes you, but you witnessed it. Oh, what was that? The more we do it, the more we do it, the more we do it, the more we do it. Stay connected with the seeds we plant, using any situation. Not because this is like a duty, not because you gotta do it, you gotta be a nice person, you gotta be positive, but because it's an invitation to return to who we really are. It's an opportunity. And maybe it's not a popular one, or maybe it is. It's a small group, but this is pretty good. Hey, we got 4 people. That's, there's a couple online, hey, But it's not about that. It's not about anything else except you doing you. You practicing it, okay? Returning yourself to where you are. Perseverance. Gotta have perseverance. There's days and weeks we just don't feel like it. We have all these seeds within us, the wisdom, the care, the compassion. meditation isn't to make some special experience. And it's not like we're trying to like, oh, I don't know, I didn't have it that night. I didn't get it, you know, like, or something didn't happen, you know, I didn't see the light. But it's to learn how to tend to this garden, to learn how to water the seeds of kindness and presence, to be present, to be attentive. That's all it is. It's just to be here now. We're constantly striving for something. Well, if I do this, will I have it? It's like, you know, there's a story, and it's like a guy went to go become enlightened, and he's like, how long will it take me to get enlightened? He said, a couple years maybe. He's like, oh man, what if I work really hard? Well, it's gonna be about 10 or 20 more years, you know? So we can't strive or try so hard to make our garden be beautiful. Like, why aren't the seeds growing? What's going on? You can't see it sometimes, right? It's underneath there. It's you're human. The purpose is not to make a perfect garden either. It's not like a magazine cover, right? Where they take the most beautiful people in the most beautiful situations and then they doctor it up even more, right? You know, there's no way, you know? It's not about making a perfect garden. We have these ideas of how it's supposed to be, though. We're like, oh man, like, I really effed up today. I'm not as good as that person, or I wish I was like that, or, you know, nobody's without mistakes or pain. White picket fence. Instead of making an ideal perfect garden, the idea is to take perfectly human circumstances, relationships, family, our emotions, our thoughts, our body, but to take those for better or worse, to take these moments and to use these for wakefulness and compassion, our times at work, right? Our conversations with our parents or our kids, okay? The day we messed up and we blew up on everybody, okay? What are you gonna do with that day? Are you just gonna like let it like suck the life out of you? Or are you gonna be like, whoa, I'm not doing that again? There's no other place we can do this. It's our life. We have it. This is where we are. So we use mindfulness practice and we use it daily. Conditions are always perfect for mindfulness. So, and it's also not about striving, trying so hard. You can't rip open the flower to make it bloom. You have to water it. The sun has to shine on it. It's about tending it, not pulling the leaves open. And especially in a time where we want medication, or we want short-term results, or we want the quickest way. There's a time and a place, you know? If you get really bad pain, please take some medicine, right? You know? But in knowing the difference, the big change is in the heart. That's what we're trying to do. The biggest change in our lives is about our heart, to waking up our heart, softening up our heart. There's always difficult people, and they're waiting for you. There's always obstacles. It's hard to measure how well you're doing. It's hard to measure because it's like, this is the analogy. Well, how am I doing? You can't tell how you're doing. It's like a boat on the ocean. You don't know where you're going or where like, how far am I compared to like the boat on the river where you can watch the shore go by, right? You're on the ocean. You're on the ocean. Wherever you are, it's an opportunity to tend to the seeds. That's what it is. In this human incarnation, there's just joy and suffering. That's what there is. That's just how it is. There's pain. I love my dogs. Gosh, I love them. And it breaks my heart to think that they're not going to live forever. But do we get attached to one or the other? No, we got to enjoy the moment. If I keep worrying about when my dog's going to die, I'll never enjoy the dog, you know? It's just going to happen. But I also believe there's so much more, too. And that's the seed, the truth, the faith, the belief. Water the seeds. Rest in this mystery. We contain all these seeds We contain all these seeds, and we get to shape it. We get to tend to whatever garden we want to make. And sometimes we forget that. Sometimes somebody else tends our garden. We let somebody else stomp on our weeds or stomp on our flowers. But we have this amazing opportunity to water anything you want. If you think about your life, what seeds have you watered? What have you tended to? What have you not? I can think of a billion that I'd love to tend to that I haven't, or those that I have that I didn't, I wish I wouldn't have. We have the opportunity. Pablo Neruda, probably saying that wrong, it's a poet. There's a quote here, and it kind of goes along with it. You can pick all the flowers, but you can't stop the spring from coming. There is a life force that wants to renew us. Okay? There's a deep mystery there. We always come back. Addiction, being out of shape, visceral fat, whatever it is, right? You can do something about it. Smoked for this many years, drank for this many years. We're in jail, in prison, terrible life, whatever. Great life. Suicide, all these things that we think are just like a death sentence. But you can pick all the flowers. You can tear up your day. You can tear up your life. You can tear up your body. But you can't stop spring from coming. The life force that is always there. We are in this together. The air that we breathe. We share that. We share it with the trees too. Sometimes I read that one day. I was like, oh my gosh, I never even think about the trees. And I know this is kind of weird, but like, we're exchanging. Holy crap, what is going on? And I'm so busy in the cement, concrete world, here and there, in the car, and the radio, and I forget this freaking tree in my backyard that houses all these squirrels and birds and the roots and how, holy guy, oh my gosh, we're in this together. Nelson Mandela said, do not judge me by my success, judge me by how many times I fall down and get back up. Tend your seeds. You know what they are. You have your own seeds, the ones that call for your heart. There's not a one-size-fit-all seed. You water your seeds by your attention, your dedication, and your devotion. That's how you do it. That's how you do it. You pay attention to it. And you don't just garden your own garden. There's gardens around you, your kids, right? You raise conscious kids. Society needs us standing up for somebody that's vulnerable. Having a conscious business, right? It's not always the most popular path, or maybe there's not money signs flowing in. That's not what it's about. It's not what it's about. Do you get paid to volunteer? No. But the reward is something greater that money can't buy you love. The Beatles said it the best. Nelson Mandela also said this: it never hurts to think the best of someone. They often act the better because of it. It never hurts to think the best of someone. They often act the better because of it. So we have our seeds. They're there. You're the soil. You tend and you water these seeds. You have an opportunity every day you wake up, every moment. That's the only time that you actually have the opportunity. There's no other past. There's no future. It's just right here. And if you haven't done it in the past, that doesn't mean you can't do it right now. Let that go. You're perfect. And there's always room to grow. What will you devote yourself to? So let's finish up with just a few minutes. And that's it for today, guys. So let's go for about 3 minutes. And One more minute. Trying to create space. Space to stop and reflect. To witness your thoughts. Your seeds. Loving kindness. Hatred never ceases by hatred, but by love alone is healed. This is the ancient and eternal law. The game is gardening and planting the seed. Take a few breaths, guys, and then